final series going to be? Who have we got today?
Well, we have spawning down in the bottom left position of Pillars of Gold. It is the red Zerg player, Namshar.
And his opponent in the top right-hand side in the blue, representing Storm Gaming and the US of A, it is JonSnow. You know, fun fact, Steadfast, there's an EU JonSnow and an NA JonSnow. The EU JonSnow once reached out to me and said, hey, could you organize a show match between me and the NA JonSnow? And I said, that sounds like a terrible match to cast. I have no interest in that. I have enough trouble.
Paused.
Hang on just a minute, Steadfast. We got a bit of a pause. What's going on here?
Yes, we do.
That's unusual. Well, that'll give us some time, at least, then, to talk about our players, because we haven't had the chance to introduce them yet. We were a little bit surprised by the players jumping in and having their picks and bans ready to go. It's hosted on West, so they're going to have to remake the game. Okay. Bit of a mistake. Yeah, that'll be a remake. Looks like no scouting's happened yet. Neither player knows what's going on. So should be plenty fair to remake.
It's
admin. Yeah. Oh,
all referees. Never mind. Okay, so the decision has been made.
Guess we're gonna remake. But like I said, that does give us time to talk about what these players are like and what we can expect out of them. Let's start with Namshar, who may confuse people because he's got a Swedish flag next to his name in Liquipedia, and
yes.
They're like, wait a minute, this is the NA, these damn foreigners coming in and taking our gerbs. Namshar is living in Canada now, I believe, with his partner, and he's been there for quite some time, I think. Do you know where in Canada he is, Steadfast?
I believe he's actually in the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto area, so basically Toronto.
The GTA, that sounds amazing.
Yes. It's alright. It's not bad.
Where are you from, Steadfast? Or where do you live?
I am actually in the same area, also known as the GTA.
GTA.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Greater Los Angeles area, where it covers like a lot of actual territory.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think he's closer to downtown. I'm not 100% sure about that though. But I am closer to like the north side, I guess.
Okay.
A little bit.
Namshar living in the downtown penthouse off all of his esports money.
Ha. Exactly. Why not?
I've heard Toronto is a lovely place to visit and to even to live. A great place to be in general. A little expensive, I've heard, but really not too bad.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's actually a pretty nice city. A lot of people aren't fond of the big city, but I mean, it's just a big city. That is what it is. It's very multicultural, which is cool.
Well, that's excellent. Anyway, we've got our match remade now. Our admin has said he's having a rough day. Poor guy. I'm gonna tell him. Hang on, we'll give him some moral support. Aw, bless his heart. Our poor admin has organized 3 major events today: China, EU, and North America, and 2 streams for each. So running just solid since, 8, 9, 10 hours ago. Poor guy. We're finally getting back in. Anyway, we talked about Namshar. He's a Swedish player, currently living in Canada, and I believe he has a Canadian passport, which makes him eligible for this tournament. But our other player, JonSnow, is an American through and through and sort of an up-and-comer, I think is fair to say. We've got our 4th match today, and continuing with our theme, seems to be kind of established players against these up-and-coming young fighting players. Would you agree with that, Steadfast?
I would agree with that to a certain extent. I would re-diagnose him though, as and this is kind of a call out to Rubby, because I think JonSnow is Rubby's favorite player, because he's a North American who works hard. He's got a lot of potential. And JonSnow has referred to this as himself. He's the gatekeeper of Tier 1 for North America.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I heard Rubby talking about that on stream a couple days ago. The gatekeeper to NA Tier 1. Well, I don't know if there's a need to reintroduce our players here. Just really quickly, we got JonSnow, the gatekeeper to Tier 1, and Namshar in the top corner, our Swedish player, hailing from GTA, which is not Grand Theft Auto, apparently. It is the Greater Toronto. Although if you lived in Grand Theft Auto, your life would be, what a nightmare. Both players going...
Worse?
Go on.
I was going to say, would it be worse to live on Creep or in Grand Theft Auto?
Oh, surely Grand Theft Auto, because at least the creep isn't going to, like, shank me all on its own. Is it just creep, or do you have to have the Zerg units along with it?
That's a good question, because I think creep can only exist if there's, like, queens spreading creep tumors and hatcheries.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
This is a really tough would you rather. I feel like I have to do shots now to make it like a proper house party.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well,
have you ever played... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, sorry, you've never played...
Well, have you ever played Billionaire Banshee? It's basically a game of, like, would you rathers, but with just, very interesting scenarios.
Oh, I'll note that for research later when I'm not at my work computer then. Wow. Well, hatch gas pools for both players here. Conservative openings. Kind of what I expected here. I wouldn't have expected a 12 pool or anything. I think this match has the potential to be one of our closest matches of the day.
I don't think the bar is set too high, but yes, I do agree with you. One thing to note is that Namshar did go up to 21 drones before starting up his Overlord. So just going on the greedier edge of this very standard play. A lot of players are starting to do that. It's not a big difference, but it does mean that Namshar will get his drones out just a little bit faster. You get ever so slightly ahead. It's a minuscule difference, but it's one that if you can, you take it.
Absolutely, and as in any mirror matchup, every tiny advancement you can take, every small window of opportunity you've got to claim it, because otherwise you're going to fall behind very quickly. We see the third base is down for both players. Some pressure out from JonSnow. But I think Namshar should be just fine. He's got some links popping down and should be able to defend that third base fairly easily. The question to me is always, how much are they going to soften up the third base? I see this a lot in CVZs especially, where the third base, the lings will peck away at the third base for 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Only 2 lings, 3 lings maybe, but they work it down just enough where it becomes this really juicy target halfway through the game for a run by, and some lings can snipe it down really quickly. So we'll see what JonSnow can get done. He's been very pernicious keeping up the pressure on this third base for now.
Yeah, he's done a good job right there, and Namshar does shoo him away, but that was probably about 500, 600 damage worth of health. And it is important to note that if you can attack the hatchery while it's building, it does not have its base 1 armor, so you do 25% more damage. Nice scout from Namshar is going to get in here and make sure that nothing cheeky, nothing crazy is happening. There's no cheeky Roach Warren. It's not a super fast layer. This is just a good scout. And on the other side, we do see Namshar going for a second gas and a very quick layer.
Yeah, indeed. Second gas on the main base. Usually, of course, I see that on the natural. But yeah, second base, quick lair, and now, of course, the Evo chamber. And just as JonSnow shoos those lings out of his natural base, look what should appear in the main. Roach Warren.
It is the Roach Warren. And this is looking like it's going to be for most certainly some aggression. We do see a lot of Ling Bane aggression coming forward at the front. Oh, wow. Namshar just narrowly avoiding a massive hit. But he was able to avoid it. And by the way, Namshar is up quite a lot of drones, and he is going straight up into mutas. And as you mentioned, JonSnow, he built that Roach Warren, and he is just going to do a 1-gas Roach Bane Zergling all-in off of layer tech. And Namshar, he's even still droning, and he, without a Roach Warren, I think he might just be dead. It's going to be so difficult.
That's really interesting. Now, tell me a little bit more. You just said he's going to do a 3-base Roach Baneling Ling all in on lair tech. Now, he hasn't started his lair. Is that an oversight or just on hatch tech?
No, that was a misspeak. The hatch tech is what I meant.
I was about to, my mind was about to be blown. I was like, oh man, he's got something crazy up his sleeve. But yeah, look at that army supply right now. It's 45 to 18. Namshar's got a tough road ahead, man, as JonSnow morphs in some more Banelings, and the Roaches are knocking on Namshar's door.
Yes, and it is important to note that he is relying on Ling, Bane, Queen, Spine, and the Spines are not done yet. Now, Namshar is getting a decent little surround here, but Namshar with some big Baneling hits right there.
Yeah, that might have just been enough to turn the tide, but I'm just not sure if it is. The Queen's getting chased back. There's just not that much left. That Spire just getting started, but even when it pops out, if he's still alive, he's not going to have any minerals to invest because he's got to dump them all into his defense now. 26 Lings pop out, but the Roaches still alive and still in the natural. Drones pulled here for Namshar. Things are looking real rough for our Swedish player, though, here, Steadfast.
Yes, this is looking like a really solid build order choice from JonSnow. Namshar desperately trying to cancel those Banelings. He is going to prevent them from morphing in, and this may be enough to actually clean up with these Zerglings. And, well, Namshar, he's actually... I think he's held with the Spine Crawler here. The Spine Crawler in the natural bought enough time. The 2 Spine Crawlers at the 3rd. One of them did go down, but there is still that one remaining, and now the Mutas are on the way. And JonSnow, he was a little bit overzealous with his roaches, pushed a little bit too far onto his opponent's creep and let the Zerglings kind of surround him.
Yeah, he got a good Baneling shot there. I think it was a 2-for-4 trade. Yeah, JonSnow knows it. He can't take the fight from here. GG Namshar with an incredible defense there. All looked lost, and Namshar somehow pulled it out. Gonna grab game number 1.
Yeah, that was a really, really sharp defense right there from Namshar off of a... if you look at the army value as we left the game, it was substantially in favor of JonSnow right there. And just a really crisp defense.
Was there anything that JonSnow could have done to improve that attack, or did Namshar pretty much have it sewed up with those Spine Crawlers all over?
I think JonSnow rushed it a little bit. Potentially, upon seeing the Spine Crawlers, he could have morphed in a couple of Ravagers to try and take those out. I think he overestimated the speed of the Spire because he knew that his opponent was going Spire. That is why he went for the attack that he did.
Right.
And I think he overestimated the speed of that. And if he had actually been a little bit more patient, also there was a really big Baneling hit that killed a lot of Zerglings for JonSnow, and really, if those Zerglings were still alive, he may have been able to actually cancel one of the spines before it finished. But regardless, I think he rushed himself a little bit, thinking that the Spire was further along than it was. So maybe a little bit more patience.
That's a fair assessment. Patience is always hard in ZVZ, especially when I'm playing a ZVZ. I just want to go all the time, man, and sometimes you just gotta sit back, and it's nice to see the pro players struggle with it sometimes too.
Yeah.
But a pretty even matchup so far. I mean, JonSnow putting up a really good fight. There were some very real points at which I thought, oh man, Namshar's in a lot of trouble, which I'll be honest, I haven't thought a whole lot here in our cast of the NA series today. Hopefully in game number 2, JonSnow has the opportunity to show us what he's made of here as we load in to Everdream LE Steadfast. Who are our players today? Why don't you do both player intros, since this could be your last DreamHack game of the week.
Well, I will be coming back on Sunday, but yes,
you are?
for this one, yes, I believe so.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, well, heck, I'll give it to you anyway. Enjoy yourself.
Sounds good.
Go nuts.
All right. We have spawning up in the top right position of the map in the red, looking to close things out. It is the Swedish Zerg player living in Canada, Namshar. And his opponent spawning down in the bottom left position of the map, representing Psystorm Gaming, going for that cheeky Hatch Tech 1-gas Roachling Bane all-in. Not quite able to pull it off, though. It is Psystorm's JonSnow. I don't want it.
That was a very good JonSnow impression. Holy shit, Steadfast. That sounded like you had a soundboard. Holy crap, dude. Mine always just sounds dumb. That was very impressive. Do you consider yourself a good impressionist? Because I think people always assume that, like, I'm on camera all day, so like, oh, you must be good at imitating people. I'm terrible at
it. I don't know if I'm good at it anymore, but I used to practice a lot of different impressions and accents and just ways of speaking.
No way.
I really enjoyed it. It's fun.
Is there an impression you still have in your back pocket that you're really confident about, where you could like pull it out at parties?
There are a few, but I have to like warm them up. If that makes any sense. Never
mind then. I won't embarrass you. I was gonna ask you to do it for all the viewers, but yeah, I understand. I understand the need for a warm up. It's like when I was in university, I studied music for my first year, and people always, when they learned you studied opera, they were like, "Oh, sing some opera for us," and you're like, "Shut up, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
I can't just like belt out an aria." Jeez. Well, we'll have to get you warmed up before the next cast sometime, and hear what you got for us.
That sounds good.
Well, what are our players up to here in game number 1? It looks or game number 2 rather. It looks very even so far.
So far both players only building. Well, actually, JonSnow not building any Zerglings, electing to cut them entirely, and Namshar just building a couple of scouting Zerglings here. Both players are going to go for that very fast third hatch. JonSnow getting his a little bit earlier. Also interesting to note is that Namshar elects to pull drones off of gas a little bit earlier. So JonSnow, he ends up with a little bit of a gas float here. And, well, it's not a significant thing, but Namshar building, for example, a third queen so that he can get that queen at the front towards the third base. And that is a very EU-style thing, whereas JonSnow just now building his third queen.
Man, I'm so glad I've got a Zerg expert here, Steadfast. You're adding so much value to this cast. It's so cool to cast with really intelligent people who know what they're all about and have a good insight into the minutia of these matchups, especially for our mirror matchups. Baling nests on both sides now, fairly evenly timed baling nests. With that third queen and the extra larva, does that suggest to you that Namshar might be going for the like a more Lingbane style, or is it just straight up that it's EU that mostly does that, and it's just one of those things where some players think it gives them an advantage and it's not indicative of what they're looking to play like?
It's more like it gives you a little bit easier of a defense at the third base. Let's say that your opponent does some kind of crazy all-in where they hide banelings on the map. All of a sudden you have another defensive unit. It lets you get a creep tumor towards your third base, which will connect those two up, and just the overall defense just becomes so much easier.
Very sensible. I love it. Well, speaking of defense, we do have a little bit of aggression coming down onto the third base right now, but with two queens here, I think JonSnow's going to realize this is going to be a very difficult row to hoe, and he's maybe going to take some time to set up for a more aggressive attack or even just go home. Namshar's Overlord, of course, in place to spot this, and Namshar should be able to snipe some of these Banes. He's just going to go through with the Ling. Roach Warren's down on both sides. The Roach Warren for Namshar slightly ahead of the Roach Warren for JonSnow, but this game, as they would say in Britain, just going along tickety-boo. Nothing unusual at all.
Yeah, not so much. I think Namshar just spotted the layer of his opponent. Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. And behind that, he starts up 10 drones. He starts up his +1 missile. We should see him start up a layer very shortly, unless he is going to flip the script. But with 48 drones, if you were going to do like a 3 gas +1 missile, you would do that off like 40 drones at the most.
Okay.
And yeah, he's building that layer, so he's not going all in.
Probably a good call here, as there is some pressure on his third base. Going all in would be a lot of stress for him that I'm not sure he wants right now. Looks like there was a pick off of one of the creep tumors here. A nice snipe for JonSnow. Always keeping your opponent's creep back is very valuable, even in his ZVZ. I feel like nowadays I've seen more Zerg players spreading creep in ZVZ. Whereas I seem to recall years and years ago, the rule was never spread creep in a ZVZ. Ever, never, ever, never. Is there a reason that's changed, Steadfast?
Yes, there is. So, mutas are a lot stronger than they were once upon a time. And queens are oftentimes the very important unit for the defense. So, if you want to, deal with that, if you want to deal with mutas, you need your queens to be able to walk around your bases very effectively. And, well, creep spread does that.
Totally makes sense. We see the Nidus Worm finishing up for JonSnow, but Namshar already ready to deal with it. He's got some Lings and Banes here. Should immediately respond to that. I don't know if he's going to use the Banes on it, or yeah, worth it to get that health down, I think. Does not want this to finish up in his main base.
We are going to be seeing JonSnow push in earnest towards the third base here. And, well, Namshar, he has his +1 finished. JonSnow is going to get Roach speed a lot faster because of that faster layer, and he is committing pretty hard. He's down in drones by a decent amount, so he really does need to get something done here, but this Nidus is going to allow for that. We do see the Ravager Morph actually kind of mucking about with the, oh wow, big Baneling hit, killing 6 drones right there. We do see the Ravager Morph from Namshar actually kind of confusing the pathing right there. Mm-hmm. And JonSnow, he's killed 13 workers. He's ahead now.
Yeah, that was really brutal. A good defense by Namshar. I was looking at the army supply graph and thinking, wow, Namshar held. The army supply is fairly even now. But absolutely correct. As with most of these fights we're seeing, it's always good if you can win or break even on the main fight. As long as you're doing damage to your opponent's income behind that, it's going to be a win for you. And we're going to see Namshar trying to poke and prod this army a bit, bring him into range of the Spine Crawlers, and try and force a bad fight out of JonSnow right now. Because as you said, going from an income advantage to an income disadvantage very quickly.
Yeah, and I think you said it best right there, trying to draw him into the spines. And that is something that Namshar is really desperate to do, is get value out of those spines, because he knows he lost a lot of workers. I don't think either player knows what the game state is. JonSnow might be looking at this drone count at the third. He might think that he's ahead, but I don't think he thinks he's substantially ahead. Now, he did just finish up a good round of drones, and that is going to mean that, that he's going to be in a cruising economic position.
The question is going to be, can he live long enough against the cruising army position of Namshar right now, who's able to snipe that Nidus Worm pretty easily and drive JonSnow back. He's about 5 army supply ahead, and the upgrades, still fairly even for both these players. +2 at about the same time, and the Spire coming down from Namshar. Is the Spire going to be his saving grace here again in Game 2?
I do like the decision to go for Spire after losing all those drones. He knows that, well, okay, he can't know how much JonSnow droned behind us. He is trying to get a scout in with an Overseer, and he is... Ooh, actually really nice contaminate right there. So he does know that his opponent's on 6 gas now, and that is a very valuable bit of information, but he doesn't know how much his opponent droned out. Or at least he didn't for a while. So that Spire, really great way to kind of hope your opponent doesn't attack, and then maybe if they do attack right as your mutas pop, similar situation to Firefox versus TLO, where just it's a bunch of Ravagers and Roaches against mutas that, well, don't give a hoot.
The good news for JonSnow is that Hydralisk Den is down, and Namshar has not spotted it yet. Oh, he's going to eat some of his own corrosive vials there. A bit sloppy from JonSnow, but Namshar going to take this fight. Namshar behind an army supply, and his army not all there. There's pressure at the third as well. These Roaches distracting a lot of Namshar's army. JonSnow might just win this one on the ground before the mutas have a chance to interact at all.
Yeah, and it turns out JonSnow did scout that Spire, so that is why he built that Hydra Den. Now, that Contaminate could come in very, very much into effect, because that +2 missile, which was so evenly timed, now is quite far ahead for Namshar. Mutas do pop out for the red Zerg player, but he's already lost his 4th. And with JonSnow securing that high-yield 4th base gas, ooh, I love this decision to take down these rocks, by the way.
Why?
Things are... Oh, it just provides so much more mobility between your bases for the Zerg player. And you can't get kind of choked out of your 4th base trying to defend a run-by towards your 3rd or something. If you're on the wrong side of those rocks, your opponent's army is at the bottom of them, your 4th base is dead.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen Roach Ravager armies like filed, double file, like they're in they're in the book Madeline, 2 at a time, walking all the way across the map for a big attack because they've been funneled through that narrow choke point in the Roaches before. The Hydras are out, though, in force now. 12 of them on the map, and more on the way from JonSnow. That +2 missile attack going to help out a lot. Grooved Spines on the way. Muscular Augments for the speed already finished. And this could be a really ugly fight here for Namshar, who doesn't have quite as much DPS in his army. Those Hydras are going to shell away on the Roaches and Ravagers.
Massive Corrosive Vials coming in on JonSnow, though. I was actually going to say, the one thing is, though, because of Corrosive Vials, even though Hydras do more DPS, they have to, a lot of times, not shoot as much. Oh, this is right down to the wire, but I think Namshar... Oh, man, there's a lot of squishy Hydras in there. Corrosive Vials will get dodged, but now the Hydras are mostly gone, and the mutas are going to swing in, and this is looking like Namshar could be able to get quite a bit of damage done there. He does poke in and snipe a Hydra, but he loses a muta for it, so not free there.
Yeah, that was a really ugly engagement, if we're honest with ourselves, from JonSnow. He ate so many Corrosive Vials there. The Ravager count for Namshar just so much higher, and Namshar being so much more active about moving those units out. We see the army supply graph showing that Namshar taking a significant lead after that fight, even with a good Concave. The Mutalisks here to cut off reinforcements. The Concave now shifting into Namshar's favor, and the Corrosive Vials continuing to be dodged on Namshar's side much more diligently than JonSnow. And JonSnow's going to tap out here after a really brutal, terrible last fight there. Steadfast.